Bring in Nick Wright. So everybody thinks I'm being an antagonist, and all I have said...
I don't see how.
All I have said is Phil Knight, his opening manifesto at Nike. Number 9, number 1 was, we are in the business of change. Number 9 was, it won't be pretty. And my take is the WNBA is an exploding business. And I don't care if you're tech or WNBA. The reason businesses explode, a star emerges, antagonist, protagonist, turbulence. Yeah. This is all wonderful. There is a racial component. This is America, of course. But my takeaway is that foul is just part of a story that's building into this really fascinating ascending business.
Yeah, so this entire thing is to me more so. There has been more discussion about the discussion than there has been discussion about the basketball. Because we almost have two factions. You have a group of people who I think don't watch how sports media typically covers these stories, that think we are either being unfair to Caitlin or unfair to Angel or unfair to Kennedy. And it's like, well, we're kind of unfair at times to everybody, and now they're in the vortex of sports media. Yeah. Then you have a group of people in sports media who I think feel like, hey, I didn't used to ever talk about the WNBA. Now that I am talking about the WNBA, you shouldn't criticize anything I say about the WNBA because you should just be happy I'm talking about the WNBA, which that is incorrect as well. Yeah. So I don't think this is that complicated. I think you have a legitimate rivalry between Angel and Caitlin. And Angel is still, I think, upset about the fact that national championship game, she won, and yet, and this is where race does come into factor, her overwhelmingly black team that beat the overwhelmingly white team got painted as villains. And then the next year, even though they were the defending champions, Caitlin Clark was the story. So I understand her bitterness about that. With that said, Caitlin Clark was not the story purely because she is some great white hope. She was the story because she was the best player in the sport last year, breaking records, and she is a superstar. I think Angel Reese is a star. Yeah. I think that Cameron Brink is a star. I think that this rookie class has a lot of stars. And then you have Caitlin Clark, who is a superstar. But that's all fine. And the hard foul is fine. And a little bit of rookie hazing is fine. And a little bit of, do you remember, Colin, when we found out the Cavs won the LeBron lottery and they went around and interviewed Darius Miles and Ricky Davis, and those guys seemed legitimately hostile towards their soon-to-be teammate LeBron James. Said, well, I don't think some high schooler's going to come in here and dominate. He can ride our wave. He can jump on our bandwagon, because it's like this kid who hasn't done anything, already has more money than me, already has more fame than me, has a Nike contract. There was real bitterness from his own teammates. Do I think Caitlin is dealing with some of that? Of course. Do I think there are other WNBA players that are like, she has a $20 million shoe deal before Asia Wilson that don't like that? Of course. Do I think race plays a factor? Of course, because it's America and race plays a factor in everything. But I don't think this is that complicated, and I don't think Angel Reese has done anything wrong. She's been the second best rookie so far this year by any statistical metric. Yep. Cameron Brink's been third, and Caitlin's been the best. And this is great for the sport. I just feel like everyone gets so worked up, and I don't know if it's because it's women. I don't know if it's because the racial angle makes people uncomfortable. But my goodness, this is a pretty straightforward sports story. The hotshot rookie got hip checked by the teammate of her prime collegiate rival. Collegiate rival then stood and applauded. Hotshot rookie's teammate didn't really have her back, which kind of seems a little odd. Yeah. We've seen this story before. It's not that controversial to me. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, so do I. You and I, it lands the same. Yeah. So now J-Mac is getting on me because I'm projecting. I said, but it will be interesting if the Celtics win and Jaylen Brown, who just won the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals, wins the MVP of the NBA Finals. And I said, The two players in this finals that I know are going to play well, Luka and Jaylen Brown. Kyrie, I'm not sure. Tatum, a lot of pressure, I'm not sure. So what do you need to see from Tatum where it's like definitive, he did it? Or do you think there is this matters a lot to Tatum? And could he do something where you would go, without just being awful, which he won't be, how big is it for him? What do you project for him?
So, listen, I mean, I think it's obviously huge because he can win his first championship. They've been banging on the door. Since Russell's Celtics, the teams that have made 6 conference finals in 8 years are as follows. Dr. J's Sixers, they finished it off with a championship. Magic and Kareem's Lakers, in that 8-year stretch, they won 4. Bird Celtics, in that 8-year stretch, they won 3. Michael's Bulls, in that 8-year stretch, they won 6. And then I feel like, Duncan's Spurs, in that stretch, they won 3. And then, of course, Steph's Warriors, in that 8-year stretch, they won 4. And then the Celtics, who in this 8-year stretch, they've won 0. So I do think, and they're huge favorites, the Mavs winning, oddly, shockingly, would be the 3rd biggest upset in the last 40 years in the NBA Finals. I don't view it that way. That's how Vegas views it. So he obviously has a ton to gain from a team continuity and finally breaking through perspective. But I would be very surprised if Jayson Tatum plays in either direction in a way that makes me feel drastically differently about him. There is a weird thing happening right now where people are saying, why is Jayson Tatum disrespected? And I don't think he's disrespected. I think there are 3 players in the league that are hands down unequivocally better than him. Luka, Jokic, and Giannis.
Yes.
Then there is the Embiid factor, which is weird because Embiid's better in the regular season, but has a tattered postseason resume, so he's a question. And then there's SGA, Ant, and that group of guys that Tatum is in. I don't think it's disrespectful to properly rank him. And maybe Celtics fans will get mad at me, even if the Celtics win this title. I would be shocked if I come away from this saying Jayson Tatum is better than Luka, Jokic, or Giannis. I just don't think he is, and even if his team wins it, now listen, maybe he's going to average 38, 9, and 7, and I'm going to feel differently, but I think Luka's far more likely to be a player who can do that.
So C.J. Stroud came out, and he really we got into this thing yesterday that if we were redrafting every quarterback in the league, and you had to consider injuries, age, ascension, production, everything, and I think I went Mahomes, he went Allen, I went Lamar, he went Herbert, and I took C.J. Stroud 5th. And what was interesting, yesterday he was asked on a podcast about Eli Manning or Aaron Rodgers. And he said, I would take Eli's career. And my takeaway is, this is great. The kid cares about the right stuff. It's not about the fame. It's not about the money. It's not about the podcasting. It's just about trophies. Because Eli Manning's career is fairly unspectacular if you take away beating Brady twice. And it does bring up an interesting idea that if I say to you, better career, the sense is it's overwhelmingly Aaron. But I've always looked at football is not baseball, it's not romantic, it's not basketball, it's not stylistic. It's just trophies. And I look at Eli's career and I'm like, yeah, I would take that career too. Healthy 16 years, New York, 2 trophies over Brady. Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, it's a matter of taste, I suppose. It's not what I would choose. Now, if you want to say Eli over, you would take Eli's career over Dan Marino, because the gap between 2 and 0 is so significant, I'll at least listen to that. But to me, the difference between 2 and 1 is not enough to bridge the gap of Eli never won a playoff game other than those 2 years. He never sniffed an MVP, much less won multiple of them. He wasn't the best quarterback in his own family. For all those reasons, I would take Aaron's. If you were asking me, Nick, Like, would you rather win 2 Super Bowls and other than those 2 years be largely good but never great, or win 1 Super Bowl and in a half dozen years be either the best, second, or third best quarterback in football? I personally would rather the latter than the former. Now, fortunately, my guy gets to have all of it. All the Super Bowls, all the MVPs, all the records. So the right hand, I would just take Mahomes' career, but that's just me.
No, that's a good take. That is a fair take. Maybe I'm too trophy obsessed. Finally, I'll circle back to I want to stay on football. So I said this earlier. If you're fair, CeeDee Lamb is the closest thing to Justin Jefferson in the league. Their numbers are absolutely, and they both played with very similar quarterbacks. Kirk and Dak's career numbers are virtually the same. And so you have to pay an elite pass rusher. You cannot, for a guy you drafted controversially in the first round, and he has gotten better every year. He never gets hurt. He's absolutely the only comp for Justin Jefferson statistically. You have to sign him. But could I not argue what you don't have to do is re-sign Dak? Quarterback coaching is better. The 2020 class was 5 quarterbacks and no misses. The 2018 class gave us 3 stars. Is that if you take a first-round pick, Micah and CeeDee, and they're better than you thought, you can't move off that.
If you draft and develop a star, you have to re-sign that star.
But if
unless there is some go ahead.
Okay, but if you're a 4th rounder and there's a ceiling and we've paid you, I think emotionally I could move off that. Packers moved off Aaron. Vikings moved off Kirk. Seattle moved off Russ. I emotionally, I can't pay all 3 of them. It's easier for me to move off a 4th that I feel elevated him with Zeke, O-line, offensive coaching. I can't move off a first-round pick who's better than I thought he would be.
Well, and younger, and you think more upside. Granted, the huge argument here is positional value, quarterback being here and everything else being here. But I don't think the Cowboys are giving Dak an extension this offseason, because if they were going to, they would have already done it. The whole benefit of giving him an extension is it opens up cap space for you, but that cap, all the free agents are gone. Like, whatever cap space you would have been able to use, you would have wanted it 2 months ago rather than right now. I think that the Cowboys are willing to take their medicine on Dak Prescott's contract this year and then evaluate in the offseason, because I don't think America has yet acknowledged that because the Cowboys can't trade Dak, can't franchise tag Dak, he is going to be an unrestricted free and clear free agent. He is going to get something like $60 million a year and probably 3 years fully guaranteed. Dak's next contract, whomever gives it to him, is going to be earth-shattering. And I think the Cowboys, understandably, wonder if what that will do to their cap situation and the players they won't be able to maintain or the players they won't be able to go get with a quarterback of Dak's caliber, if that puts a ceiling on them. So I think, obviously, you re-sign Micah Parsons. He's one of the 5 best defensive players in the sport. Obviously, you re-sign CeeDee Lamb. He's one of the 5 best receivers in the sport. They are both in their early to mid-20s. You drafted them with first-round picks. They've exceeded expectations. I'm fine with the Cowboys rolling the dice on losing Dak Prescott a year from now rather than locking themselves. Colin, we have seen the most expensive quarterback in the league win a Super Bowl because he's Patrick Mahomes. We have seen quarterbacks on rookie contracts win Super Bowls. We've seen mid-level quarterbacks win Super Bowls. The one thing we've never seen is that good but not great quarterback on the massive contract win a Super Bowl. We've never seen it. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl and then got paid.
Yep.
Like those guys who are in that tier, they hadn't gotten paid yet. So I think it's reasonable what the Cowboys are doing, and I don't expect Dak to get a contract this offseason.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos, and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.